Good evening, Gator fans. It's a good night. I've got good stuff to talk about. And in a moment, you'll see me with a crazy outfit on, a Christmas hat, because you know what? Christmas just came early for Gator football fans. All that coming your way in a moment. We'll talk to Nick Torre, and then we'll talk to Chris Doering, and standing by at the O-Dome before they tee it up, Florida and UConn, is Kyle Curtis. Buddy Martin show's about to be on the air. Go tell your friends and neighbors we're here. It's going to be a good night for Gators.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. I mean, a really good evening. I'm Buddy Martin. This is the Buddy Martin Show. In just a moment, we're going to the O-Dome, but right now I want to say one thing. I can feel the whole spirit of the Gator Nation being lifted tonight. It's like they're coming off the desert, all parched, and suddenly had a long pull on a cold drink of water. It feels good to be a Gator tonight. I know that's how Kyle Curtis feels. We'll go to the O-Dome and see where he's hiding out somewhere there and see what's going on with Kyle. Good evening to you, Kyle. Let me turn you up here, buddy. And thanks for coming on with us tonight. Tell us about the big news.
Obviously, a great day for Gator fans. Sorry, it's a little bit loud here in the O-Dome with number 5 UConn, but we were able to secure Derek Lagway, DJ Lagway, one of the top guys in the nation for the 2024 class, the number 1 dual threat guy, 5-star on 2 platforms, 4-star on 2 others. And, you know, like you said, a great day for Gator Nation, and you're able to see kind of everyone come together today, and there's a lot of excitement around the whole program.
Excellent job reporting by you. Once again, I won't keep you with a minute. Let's get back to the game. We've got Nick Torre standing by and Chris Doering coming in a moment. Take a good look at this. This is what I wear in the next segment right here. And the reason I wear it is because, well, it's Christmas for Gator fans all of a sudden. Feels pretty good, doesn't it, Kyle?
It's a great time to be a student here. It's a great time.
Go enjoy the basketball game. We'll catch up to you soon again. Another excellent job of reporting by Kyle Curtis from the University of Florida. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. We'll see you guys soon.
All right, thanks. All right, folks, let's get to our sponsors tonight and then on with the show.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
All right, thanks very much to the Meldons. And let's go, well, good evening to everybody here. David Baldoff on the pole position tonight. He's up and at him. Eric Newton, Becky Smith, Carlisle, Terry Johnson, Brent English, Andy McIntosh, Scott Sloan, of course, Dan Bond, Michael Burton, Toby C. Permitter, Thomas Dobbs, Chris Howell, Garth Michael Patrick, and Scott Sloan. All right, tonight we talked to Nick Torre from Gators Online, talking about, guess what? the big get. The Florida Gators have got themselves a really, really good prospect, and spirits are lifted. Well, Nick Delatorre want to know why I have this crazy hat on. Well, it's Christmas time, Nick. It's Christmas time. Gator fans need a little joy, and they sure got it today, didn't they?
Yeah, it's listen. I thought this was in the works, but after the whole Cormani McLean deal about a month 6 weeks ago, whatever that was, always gun shy. You never know what is in the mind of a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, and what's in their mind at 9 a.m. might be different by 4 p.m. when they announce,
or even 9:15. So there's a lot of data out here, a lot of numbers. You guys did a really good job today of covering it. I think I've got a graphic here somewhere that came from your site right here. It's pretty cool. With some of the stuff that you guys you did there. A 5-star DJ Lagway, no periods, just DJ, from Willis, Texas. Over the years there have been lots and lots of great quarterbacks out of Texas. What makes everybody think that DJ Lagway, the promising quarterback 5-star who committed for the 24 class, makes him so special?
Yeah, he's the number 2 quarterback in the 2024 class for our site. He is a dual threat quarterback, really accurate. His touchdown interception ratio is fantastic. A big kid, runs really well. This is a guy who I think missed a couple games this year because he was injured. I think the best is yet to come with him. Also a 3-sport athlete, plays football, basketball, and baseball. I don't think he's played baseball for Willis since his freshman year. But that was something he was interested in doing and is interested in doing, is playing football and baseball. I think Billy Napier likes those kind of guys that play multiple sports. It's really tough to play football and baseball. I think it'll be easier for him as a pitcher, to come in and you're probably not going to be as behind as a hitter would be if you're not getting those same kind of reps. But that was a big deal to him. Chuck Geralman, who was the assistant coach when DJ was here on an unofficial visit, took him through all the baseball, the brand new facility, and all of their stuff, and their new locker room, their new ballpark. So that had a play in it. USC came in late with Lagway, and the baseball team offered him a scholarship, later, or told him that he could play. So he's a really interesting guy. From talking to him just once, really humble, hard worker, and I think this is a guy who, as good as he is on the football field, now you have a quarterback in place a year early, and one that wants to. He told our Sam Spiegelman, I want the number 1 class. I want to be part of the number 1 recruiting class. And now you have a guy who in December of his junior year of high school is committed to a school and wants to help coaches recruit his class. I think that's something, that could be really special.
Yeah. Let's do recruiting for dummies and keep up with I can't keep up with all this stuff, especially with the transfer portal tsunami going on right now at the same time. But he is a 24 class. Jaden Rashada is from California, is the 2023 class. And he flipped from Miami, of course. Now there's still a possibility to come up with a transfer portal, whether it's Sam Hartman, whoever, to get him through this. But I heard a report today from a good source that said, don't count out the guy they got playing quarterback. They think he might be able to get it done. This comes from an inside source, and we'll see whether Jack Miller gets a shot at it too. So suddenly the quarterback room, which has looked kind of tepid recently, looks a little better in the future. And I think if Jack Miller could come through, that would be a huge thing, and then they get a transfer. Billy's apparently going to get it done. What do you think?
Yeah, you're going to need a transfer quarterback. You lose Anthony Richardson, you lose Jalen Kitna. Now you're down to just 2 scholarship quarterbacks for the bowl game. Jack Miller, who's had quite a time coming back from that thumb injury, the thumb surgery. I've had people say he doesn't have full, complete range of motion and feeling back in it just yet. We'll see how he does in bowl practices. I think there's going to be a couple open to us. I haven't really seen him throw other than pregame for about the last month. And it's nothing against Jack. He's unfortunately for him kind of stuck, having already used the transfer portal, so he can't really go anywhere. But Florida needs to have you want to have at least 4 scholarship quarterbacks. So I don't think that Jaden Rashada will be ready to be the guy in 2023. I don't think Max Brown's ready to be the guy in 2023. So if you're Billy, you need to bring in a transfer portal quarterback just to compete with Jack Miller and to compete with the other guys. Now, listen, if Jaden Rashada comes in and he's enrolling early, if he comes in and he earns the job and he starts, that first game in Utah, sure. But I don't think you're anticipating that as a coach, and I'm not anticipating him being ready to be that starter week 1. So you need to get a guy, like a Leary from NC State,
Hartman from Wake Forest,
Sam Hartman, who's not in the portal yet. He's an older guy. I think he just finished his 4th or 5th year. It would have like a COVID year for a 6th year. He's obviously an older guy. But I think Florida is absolutely in the market for a transfer portal quarterback. I wrote about that, and we'll continue updating. Drake May, as we started this, announced that he's not going anywhere. The UNC quarterback who has the potential to be, all AC. I think will probably be the all AC first team all ACC quarterback. He has a long family history at UNC, but his brother, one of his older brothers, Cole, did win a national championship at Florida on the baseball team. But he would have been, the number 1 guy. I think there's some other guys. Pratt, the quarterback at Tulane, I think he's a guy. There's also Austin Reed, who's a St. Augustine kid. He's kind of bounced around. I think he's in a position where if Florida offered him, he would come. But, yeah, Florida's definitely in the market. They've been in contact with quarterbacks. They need to get a quarterback in the transfer portal. Good news for them, there's more than 60 quarterbacks in the transfer portal.
And over 1,000 apparently players. This is gonna be crazy. But sticking to this right now, I'm trying to figure this out. You can coach us up on a couple things, some numbers that come through. I read this. I might have been on 3. And by the way, if you're not a member, you ought to check it out. Good stuff. In addition to Nick, you got Corey Bender and obviously good stuff coming from Zach Albaverdi. So I read this that Lagway is now the 37th highest ranked commit in UF history. Of course, they didn't always have 5 stars, but I mean, in modern history. And it's the highest since Jeff Driscoll. Now, I remember Driscoll well. I remember talking to a couple of coaches and friends of mine who said if we don't get anybody else in his class but Driscoll, we'd have a good year. Didn't work out that way, as Driscoll didn't have a successful run here. But again, let's remind folks, this is not a slam dunk that he's going to be a superstar. Yeah. We've had 5 stars, but it sure takes away the onus of the critics talking about Billy's staff not being able to recruit. And I wanted to ask you about a couple other things. I mean, his numbers are pretty impressive. Not as tall as I thought he was. Supposedly he's plenty tall, 6'2", 225 from Willis, Texas. He completed 67% of his passes. I don't know if those are RPOs or what. You would know more about that. 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in his junior year. He should get better. So he also ran for 517. Looks like he's a fit for this offense, doesn't it, Nick?
Yeah. Obviously a little bit smaller than Anthony Richardson, but very similar build. Really big arm. Definitely has shown more accuracy at the high school level than Anthony did at the college level, but also a guy that can run. And like you said there, 6'2", 225 as a 16-year-old kid, room to grow. Who knows if he's done growing or if he'll end up being 6'4", 240 like Anthony. But very similar player in the way that their arm talent is very projectable. I mean, I've had NFL scouts tell me Anthony has Josh Allen type arm strength and can make any kind of throw. I think that's you'll get a similar read from NFL scouts a few years down the line on DJ Lagway. it's going to be really fun to watch. A lot of people, when Jaden Rashada flipped, a lot of fans thought, okay, well, that means we're not going to get Lagway. And I think you're seeing the kind of competitive nature from DJ that I don't care who you have on the depth chart. I'm not looking at the depth chart. I believe in myself and in my ability. And when I come there, I don't need to be. I don't need to be promised anything. I just need to be promised an opportunity, and I know what I'm going to do when I get an opportunity.
Yeah, I love some of the quotes I read or heard on ESPN. He says one of the things was the tradition they have with quarterbacks. They've had 3 Heisman winners, and I want to be one of those type of players. I want to go there and develop and be the best player I can be in the stadium environment. It's very electric, and you get the true meaning of SEC football. I'm excited to be able to come back and go visit games, enjoy the atmosphere. Now, look, we expect kids to say nice things about the school, but he can tell you in that quote that he knows something about the school already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for a kid he's only a junior, so he couldn't take official visits. I think he made 3 trips to campus. Billy Napier was in his home as soon as he could be, I think this last week, for a visit. And it's interesting when you start following recruits, and like you said, their mind can change about what they want for breakfast from the fridge to the table. To see him make a commitment like this, to take those factors in, and I think when you start following the visits, just the amount of times he had, on his own dime, come from Texas to Florida, to see the stadium, to meet the coaches, to build that relationship, I think that was telling, and that's kind of when I started getting the sense that Florida was in a good spot here. He told one of our On3 writers that his mind was made up after his second trip, and I think, certainly he will get some. I already saw on Twitter he'll get some NIL offers once they're available. I'm not sure what the Texas rules are.
That's right
for NIL, but in California, Jaden Rashada is already collecting on NIL because you can cash in as a high school player in California. So
that's great.
That's
point.
also part. Yeah, that's also part of the name of the game. So if it's allowed in Texas, I'm sure we'll probably see a Gator Collective announcement with DJ Lagway either soon, or if it's not allowed in Texas, I think you'll see it pretty shortly after he arrives on campus.
Yeah. In case you just tuned in and saw this goofy hat I've got on and wonder what we're doing here, this is to celebrate the early Christmas present for Gator fans. DJ Lagway, the 5-star quarterback from Willis, Texas, committed today to the Florida Gators, which makes a lot of Gator fans happy. Certainly makes Billy Napier happy. He was this guy who targeted. That gives them Rashada now and him, and their next 2 classes have a centerpiece with their quarterback. I want to say that if you haven't read Nick's Twitter feed, it's must read. He has some of the best tweets of anybody. He's on top of it. Of course, he also writes for Gators Online, does some good stories. I want to get back to the point that 2 things here, and you wonder if this helps. They commented on the sincerity and kindness of the coaches, and the fans apparently played a part in this too, because the quote his father said, Derek says, the love that they've been showing him, meaning the fans, was a deciding factor. He says, we went there, the fans, it's unbelievable. We walked on the field, it was, quote, Lagway to the swamp, unquote. Coach Napier seemed like a really good dude. He can develop DJ. So all those factors play into getting the first really big recruit that Billy Napier has signed now in his year here at Florida. Unfortunately, he won't be around for the Las Vegas Bowl or even next year, but they're going to have to get a quarterback pretty quick, and it looks like Jack Miller's the man. What do you know about him? What do you think about him? And how do you think he'll do in the game against Oregon State?
Yeah, I think Jack Miller is fine. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I don't think he's an all-SEC type of quarterback. We didn't get to see a ton of him before that injury. In the spring, I thought he was good. Thought Anthony was head and shoulders better. And then obviously after the spring game when we talked to Jack, he almost looked a little shell-shocked. Like, man, I did not know – almost like he didn't know like how good Anthony Richardson was or could be. And it was like, man, I thought their quarterback left, and I was coming here to start. So I don't know how much faith I would put in Florida's season if Jack Miller is, if you don't get a transfer quarterback, Jack Miller's going to be your starter next year. That being said, though, I mean, we don't know what Florida's roster is going to look like next year. There's been 26 total departures through today, 18 transfers, 3 dismissals, 4 guys who have declared for the NFL draft. So by the time the season starts next year, it's going to be a totally different team. So I don't even know what Florida will look like, and that's probably the new day and age of the transfer portal, buddy. But I think Jack Miller is okay. I'm not expecting there to be a great surrounding cast around him with all the players in the portal and guys who are going to be skipping the bowl game. I'm looking forward to going to Vegas. I don't know that the game is going to be one that a lot of the Gator fans want to.
Well, you're not going to get Vegas because you're going to Vegas. That's you.
Yes.
You always not going to Vegas.
It's been a long season. I feel like this is a gift to the beat writers.
Yeah.
Go and play some blackjack.
You know what? I think you're right, and I also think the Gator fans deserve it. My daughter said this was an exhausting season. Yeah. And I said, if you think it's exhausting for you, try covering the team. It really is exhausting. So you're right. Gator fans and media can go and watch the game, play a few nickel slots, whatever you do, and have fun and relax and get ready because this is year-round now with the transfer portal. And I'll tell you about all that. And so yeah, go and have a good time. I think I'll sit this one out and watch it on TV. But nonetheless, I can see why that would be a good R&R. A couple things on the quarterback situation. First of all, I did talk to one of the receivers for Jack Miller, and surprisingly, he was pretty strong on Jack. I didn't expect this, and he did say he's a baller. So don't mistake it. He's a baller. So that's good to know. And I hear when his thumb was okay, he was pretty accurate with throwing the football. Mm-hmm. We don't get to see that because we don't go out to practice. That's one. Secondly, the whole thing with Anthony Richardson is kind of bittersweet. You want a kid to do well. You want a kid to a Gainesville kid too, by the way. Gainesville kid. You want him to do well. In my mind and the mind of my people who cover the team, he's not some so-called quote-unquote head case, as some guy tried to say on my show the other night. He seems to be a really nice young man. He corrected his path when he got that speeding ticket at 3 o'clock in the morning. His game is he's not up to speed where he should be. We all know, but we also think, at least I do, Nick, when he goes to the combine, there are going to be a couple of guys that fall in love with his measurables, his speed, his size, and the arm strength. What do you think?
I mean, I've been writing it and saying it on both podcasts that I run that he's gone, that he was leaving. And fans, I think fans get wrapped up in wins and losses, and you're much closer to Florida and what is the quarterback doing for Florida. The NFL doesn't care that Florida went 6-6. The scouts that I talked to every Saturday when I would go up to the scouts who were at the game and
you did a story on that just the other day.
Yeah, and a couple of them told me like straight up, hey, if he comes back next year, he will be the second quarterback taken after Caleb Williams. He will be the second quarterback off the board. He's a potential top 3 pick if he comes back. But there's a caveat: if he comes back, stays healthy, shows better accuracy, shows better touch on these passes, and gets developed. We're not playing a video game. You can't turn injuries off. He's 6'4", 240 pounds. Nobody is tackling him straight up. When he gets tackled, it's people who are running full speed and diving at his knees and diving at his ankles. He dealt with a twisted ankle against Kentucky, and it seemed like every game he would get hit low and be limping. To say that Anthony Richardson is ready for the NFL, I don't know that he is. If he's drafted, let's say first overall, and thrown in to play right away, I don't know that that's the path for him to have success. But he's going to show up at the combine. He's going to probably weigh 225 pounds, 220 pounds. He's going to run a 4.3 or a 4.4 40. He won't throw. He'll probably jump out of the gym vertically and broad jump.
Should he do backflips coming on the field, the combine?
Yeah, absolutely. And then he'll go and throw at Pro Day, and that'll be an orchestrated ballet that's been choreographed and practiced 15 times before. So those 40 passes that you're throwing in an indoor practice facility that you're very comfortable in to 5 receivers who you've been throwing passes to, including that entire script, you're going to look great. And then he's going to flick a football 80 yards in the air and make it look effortless. And like you said, teams are going to fall in love with the potential that Anthony Richardson has. And somebody in the first round will say, I can make him more accurate. I can't make Will Levis 6'4", 240. But I can make Anthony Richardson accurate throwing the football.
And he can't coach speed. So there you go. All right. So give me your real quick projection. Then I want to ask you a baseball question. Get you out of here. If you had to go, let's say you had $100,000 that you had to bet on a position where Anthony Richardson might fall in the draft, you plus or minus, you're going to put it down. You got to say Anthony Richardson will be drafted this spot in April.
I'll go between 18 and 24.
Got to pick one. Got to pick a number.
19.
All right. I'm writing it down. Nick, Torre.
We have to do it again when we get the draft list. I might have just given the Broncos Anthony Richardson.
Look, you just said what I heard you say, Nick, was if he's not picked 19th, you owe me $100,000. Is that what you said?
Okay. I guess that's it.
All right, baseball. Sully's got a good team. In 2 years, you have another pitcher, right-handed pitcher from Willis, Texas. What kind of baseball player would DJ Lagway be? There are guys who've done this before. I've known a few of them, actually played with one, who played more than one sport. He won't play basketball, but he very well likely be pitching for the Gators. What will that mean to Sully?
Yeah, I think Lagway. Well, first off, it's a free player. You only get 11.7 scholarships as a baseball program. So if football is going to put a kid on full scholarship, which they all are, and he wants to come out and play, then you say yes. I don't know how much he's played baseball, in the last year or so. But he's a kid who I think has been up. Florida told me he's been up to 93 on the mound. So I think he would be probably a middle reliever, maybe a guy who gets a start on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night. But the University of Florida, and you'll see it this year, guys that throw 93 are not few and far between. It's most of the guys. Yeah. But it is easier for a pitcher. Hitting is so much timing and repetition, and you can't replicate that. And that's why, when spring ball will start up, getting geared up towards the season, the pitchers will be ahead of the batters because the batters haven't had live pitching, live ABs. So it would be much harder, for an instance like Gavin Dickey, who played in the outfield, or Riley Cooper, who played in the outfield. Those guys would end up spending most of their time as defensive replacements and pinch runners. As an arm, as long as you're not fatigued after throwing all throughout football, and then obviously how involved can you be, because spring football is right around the time when you're starting SEC play, and if you're the quarterback, you're not skipping spring football practice to play baseball, especially when you're on a football scholarship. So I don't know that he'd be a Friday night, Saturday night guy, but I've been told by Florida staff that he will have every opportunity to come in and play.
Let's get him here in one piece first. We'll talk about it, all right?
Yeah, how about that?
He's a must-read on Twitter, and probably also you might want to check out Gators Online. Nick Delatorre, one of the best. Appreciate it, Nick. Enjoy and get a little rest in Vegas, because you're going to have a busy off season. You don't have an off season.
No, sure don't. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Nick Delatorre, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, thanks very much. And the Orange Blue Room, going right to him in the 30 seconds. Chris Doering has a few thoughts. Wonder how he feels about Florida getting a top-notch quarterback. The future looks a little brighter.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks, Jeff Cardoza. Right to the Orange and Blue Room, where he's, I think, celebrating a certain anniversary, big time. It's not one about football, though, I think. It may have something to do with mortgages. Say good evening to my friend, Chris Doering. Good evening, Chris. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, buddy. How are you tonight?
Very good, sir. And tell me about what was that party all about you just had?
Yeah, just had our 15-year anniversary at Chris Doering Mortgage. The actually anniversary date was in April, but had some renovation going on in the offices, just upgraded kind of that space there that we've been in for the last 10 years. And so we pushed it back and had a anniversary party / open house tonight that went really well. So hard to believe 15 plus years in already, and really excited about the team that I have there at the Mortgage Group.
Appreciate very much you taking the time out on a busy night to join us. I've been wanting to talk to you. You've been so darn busy. Your job at SEC now and the SEC final and all the stuff you're doing. And I see you pop up on other shows and around the place and radio, what have you. So you're quite a media star now. So good to know to have associated with someone whose trajectory is going up. And speaking of trajectory going up, I was thinking about this tonight, because you would appreciate this perspective, how critical it is to have a really outstanding quarterback to be successful. I know it sounds like it's obvious. You had the benefit of playing with a Heisman Trophy winner, and that spawned the Torre got a touchdown against Kentucky, and your illustrious career. I mean, truly one of the great stories in college football to come from a walk-on, preferred walk-on, to an All-American, a guy who sets the records of all kinds, including touchdown passes in the SEC, and then go and play in the NFL and what have you. So I want to talk to you about the night I remember. This goes a long time ago. You know the name John Elway. And I covered the Broncos for many years when I lived in Denver. And they had kind of a dry spell with quarterbacks for quite some time. And I remember the night that Elway was introduced. It was a trade they got with the Colts. And I covered the press conference with Elway, and I remember driving down the expressway going home, and there was a guy named Larry King doing late night radio. Boy, I'm dating myself now. And I remember there was a caller from Denver saying what a great night it was for Bronco fans who waited all these years for a quarterback, and they thought they got one finally in John Elway. And, of course, they did. I'm not going to say that DJ Lagway is John Elway, but you know the meaning and the value of having that position well fortified. What's your reaction as a former Gator? You don't have to worry about your prejudices on this show like you do on ESPN. How do you feel about it, and what do you know about this kid, and what do you feel about the job of recruiting that Billy Napier did?
Well, I can't speak about any commits until they sign, so I'm not allowed with my job with SEC Network to do that. But I can tell you, I'm excited about the recruiting class that Coach Napier and his staff are putting together. You know, I think a lot of people were freaking out about, you know, the amount of departures through the transfer portal, but don't let that fool you. There's a lot of that happening, with difficult conversations taking place with coaches telling guys that there's probably not a great future for them. And with the way that the scholarship limitations have been removed now, you can really turn your roster over pretty quickly between the ability to sign kids coming out of high school and more importantly, the transfer portal with some experienced players. I think this coaching staff has a good mix, what I imagine is going to be a good mix of each of those sources to upgrade the roster and to get the right get the right culture set. I thought they did a good job of establishing, a culture of not quitting, showing great resiliency, fighting till the end. But I do think there's a serious deficiency in talent from where the top teams in the league are and where Florida was this past year. So you're seeing a lot of attrition, but I think it's a lot of attrition that's going to end up making this program better. And you're seeing, the results of their efforts creating relationships, not only in the state of Florida, but throughout the country as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I forgot about that
That's
part.
all right.
I was thinking about the transfer portal and thought about the commits, and I get it. But take off your hat from ESPN. You're a Gator. You're a Gator, and I see coming on the air, and I'm sure you can. I mean, let's just say, okay, that maybe they do sign him, which I think they will. But let's just say this. Tonight I come on the air saying I could feel the whole spirit of Gator Nation being lifted. It just feels that way, and the long time. It seems like it's been forever. It hasn't, because Florida had Kyle Trask, but we've had a problem getting quarterbacks here recently, except for Trask, and have worked out. And now this is a guy that could solidify the position. But beyond that, Billy Napier hits a home run, and it lifts everything. And, rising tides raises all ships. And now they're predicting that there'll be I won't say a tsunami, but a lot of kids are talking about Florida now in a way that I haven't heard in a long time. So I know, aside from your ESPN job as a Gator and resident of Gainesville, you must feel that.
Yeah, I feel a lot of positivity, and I think, the thing that I've been kind of preaching for a long time as a Gator is the need for patience, the need to understand that what you saw in Baton Rouge this year is the exception to the rule, and that Florida was in a much different situation, a much more talent-deficient situation than what LSU was. But I'm really confident that this staff, that the support staff around the coaches have a great plan in place for upgrading talent, for creating relationships, to recruit top-tier talent. And the commit you're talking about, I think the word I would use is legitimize. It legitimizes Florida as a top-tier landing spot, as a program that's going to be competing for championships in the near future.
Yeah, and every Gator fan, every fan of college sports thinks it only happens to their team. As you know, you covered the whole SEC, and you know college football. And the transition taking place now is mind-boggling. I mean, the amount of people are going to be in this portal before it's over, and how many rosters get changed. My word, you're going to have a program right away to be able to tell who's playing where and where they're from. When you were playing, I mean, I would imagine you would like to have the same opportunity. Naturally, NIL would be a different situation. You got to live at home and eat free groceries when you weren't on scholarship, but I mean, look, and your family was able to support you. But for the kids who are not walk on, don't have that money, it's hard. And now as players, they get a chance to not only make meal money, quote unquote, but also to make money in a way that we never dreamed possible. Did you think at some point that maybe Anthony Richardson might consider that and stay in school because he could get an NIL deal worth maybe $2 million?
Yeah, I mean, I think NIL, you saw it in Kentucky basketball. Oscar Tshiebwe coming back for this season when, if there hadn't been NIL opportunities, probably in the past would have gone and put his name in the NBA, even though he wasn't going to be necessarily a lottery pick. But I do think you're seeing opportunities for guys to stay around a little bit more to enjoy the college lifestyle and have some money in your pocket. I mean, I could only imagine what it would have been like to do the things that I was able to do athletically and have some money to enjoy college a little bit more in that way. But I also think, I'm scared to death, buddy, to be honest with you, of what's happening here with these kids putting their names into the transfer portal. And how many guys are going to be left out? When the musical chairs game stops and then music shuts down, there's going to be a lot of kids that have no landing spot. And I hope that it serves as a cautionary tale for the next years of kids that are thinking about doing the same thing. But I don't think it's going to be the case. I mean, you go look at the NFL draft. Every year, more underclassmen declare for the NFL draft and don't get drafted. And so that does not deter the next year's class from doing that. Everybody believes that they're going to be different. Everybody believes that their story is going to work out in a happily ever after way. But I think there needs to be more gratitude. These kids are having an opportunity to play in the SEC and get a great education from a great university. And to think that the grass is always greener somewhere else is just something that's going to be a tough lesson for these guys to learn.
Yeah, that's true. And also, the grass looks greener and for the players and sometimes the coaches as well. And mistakes will be made because they always are. It's hard enough. I mean, I think about there are some systems that just preclude other players. I think about you sometimes. I think about Trent Whittemore. I think there's a similarity. You're both Gainesville guys. You're long and lanky, good athletes. You had to walk on. He didn't. But to think that he couldn't get on the field and play, even though I understand Ricky Pearsall saying that played the same position, that he's leaving probably to go to Mississippi State with his brother. That's not the reason he couldn't get on the field. I don't know from a football standpoint, Chris. I didn't see any flies in this game. Did you?
No, I mean, I like Trent a lot. I think Trent has an opportunity to be a really good player still at this point. I was fortunate enough to not have to go through a coaching transition at the college level. It happened to me in the NFL level multiple times. I mean, I was in Indianapolis for my first 2 seasons with Lindy and Fonnie. We went 3-13. He got fired after my second year, and a new coaching staff, a new general manager came in and cleared out the roster. So it happens. And what you're seeing now is a large similarity between college football and professional football. We talked about college football being a big business, become even more of a bigger business with the NIL opportunities, and kids looking for other opportunities. I don't begrudge a kid for doing that. I do have a problem with this idea that I'm going to put my name in the transfer portal and go to the highest bidder. NIL is not pay for play. It was not designed to be pay for play. I'm upset about the NCAA not having better foresight years ago to try to figure out a way to do this, to give a little bit, to do this in a way that's not going to completely change the way the game's being played. But we're seeing free agency, guys putting their name out there just so they can make a play to get more money either at their own university or elsewhere. And that is not the design. That's not the spirit of the NIL rules that were supposed to be put in place that way.
Chris, I'm going to put you to work a little bit. You know a lot about this game. You know a lot about this team at Florida. You know a lot about the position of quarterback as being a wide receiver. Let's talk about 2 guys. Let's drill down as far as we can drill down based on what we know and talk about them. One is the former quarterback and one is the next quarterback. Anthony Richardson said today earlier on this show with Nick that I have no doubt that he'll blow him away at the combine. When he gets there, a 6'4.5" guy, weighs 230, probably weigh 230, 225 by then, can run like a deer. He's got a gun for an arm. And some GM is going to say, where has this guy been? How could you not? Because he's a specimen. There will be at least 1 or maybe 2 GMs that fall in love with him. Now, where he'll be picked, probably not to the 4th quarterback. That could fall in the 20s in the 1st or all the way to the top of the 2nd. Number 1, how do you feel about a quarterback with talents like that never quite got to his maximum? Not anybody's fault per se, but you would just love to see him stay around for a year. But on the other hand, you can't blame him for taking that kind of money. You would have taken it too if you were playing with that kind of money. So what do you think of Anthony Richardson? Then I want you to tell me as much as you can about Jack Miller. First, AR.
Yeah, so from Anthony's standpoint, I think it is a little frustrating because you see the way he played against Utah. You see the way he played against Tennessee. You see the way he played at times against Florida State. And it teases you as to what the possibilities could be if he had that sort of play consistently. And, I think it goes back to kind of what you said. This is a guy that hasn't played a lot of snaps, hasn't been all that well coached in years past. At Eastside, I imagine he was the best athlete on the field and didn't necessarily have to rely on technique as much. He goes to Florida and has to wait a little bit as an early enrollee. And He gets his chance to play in the 2021 season, and just hasn't had a lot of opportunity as a starting quarterback. But you're right. The NFL is going to see the measurables. They're going to see the ability, and they're going to draft based upon potential. And don't get it wrong. NFL coaches, NFL GMs, there's a lot of ego there. They're like, oh, I can fix this guy. He hadn't had success consistently in other places he's been, but I'm going to be the one that brings it out of him. And I think there's a lot of arrogance that goes along with that. But you said it, like, you can't begrudge a kid from going to take an opportunity to potentially make a lot of money. That's the reason we go to college, right? Anybody, whether you're an athlete or a non-athlete, you go to college to have the skills and the experience to get yourself a job where you can make good money to set yourself up for the rest of your life. So I don't begrudge him for that decision. I do think, having played in the NFL and knowing, how difficult some of the offenses are, it's going to take the right fit to be in a system that's going to help, one, develop him, two, feature his skill set, and three, fit what his football IQ is up to at that point in his career.
I can understand that. And I was telling somebody, it might have been Coach Spurrier, I don't remember, on the show, that if you put it all out there and say, should he stay or should he go? I would say, who had the line? Somebody said, talent is the aphrodisiac. If you're a coach and you see a guy with talent, you think, I got to have that guy. I think I can coach him. Like you said, the ego plays a part. And you say, well, he hasn't been consistent. Well, I'm a coach. I'm supposed to teach guys that, right? Yep. So I think, well, maybe I can teach him to be consistent, and you think about that part. You think, in a perfect scenario, Anthony stays in, doesn't go out, he gets better, he comes back with this class of more players, more receivers, more whatever, and has a really banner year, improves his accuracy, and goes in the top 3 or 4 next year. That would have been the perfect scenario. But as we know, perfect scenarios are hard to find.
I'll say this, confidence has been something that's been elusive for him at times, which is crazy to think about as athletically gifted and successful he's been at times. But you can see it early in games when things don't go well for him. The Kentucky game, he doesn't have the ability to get himself out of that rut that a lot of the great ones do. So I think he may not have been willing to bet on himself. I mean, think about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge bet on himself, turned down a huge contract, went out and had
$60 million.
Year, and upgrade. An extra $130 million than what they were going to offer him before. So that confidence and belief in yourself is something I don't think AR shares the same way, and that's no criticism on him, but I do think maybe he saw the opportunity to go now when they're talking about it being the number 4 quarterback coming out in this draft, and wanted to go get paid and have an opportunity to live the professional life now.
That's a great point, Chris. And I think you're exactly right. When I think back about what he said prior to the FSU game, he was just learning how to lead. He thought you could just play and play well and be the leader. That's sometimes overcooked, that idea, I can just go play and lead. You got to remember, you got to get everybody else's game. You got to know where everybody else is doing and lead them in the right directions. And what you do and say when you're a quarterback makes a lot of difference. And I think he lacked the confidence to do that. He was just beginning to develop that confidence to lead, Denny wasn't loud, but he had a way of leading. Talk about what Denny did as a player and how did he lead. I mean, I saw him get the crap out of him a couple of times in the game and got up and never complained. How could you not respect a guy like that? He's one of your good friends. How did Danny Werfel lead?
I mean, Danny led by example, and I think he was one of those guys that could put the bad plays behind him. Let's not forget, that Kentucky game we talk about, he threw, 3 or 4 interceptions in that game. We threw 7 as a team. Terry and Danny combined for 7. So it wasn't exactly like he was lighting it up, but he was resilient. He was able to put those mistakes in the rearview mirror. And again, going back to what we've seen with AR, he hasn't been able to turn the page as much. He's actually admitted, and I've talked to you before about this, I've never liked some of the transparency that he's shown when it comes to his, comments about being shaken or being unsure. I appreciate, I guess, him wanting to be honest and answer the questions, but that's not something that you want your quarterback to say. And I think Danny was one. You talked about the hits he would take, just get back up. Never really showed much emotion in that way. Never, tried to fight anybody. Was just very even keeled, and that was something that Coach Spurrier talked to us as a team about. I remember vividly our pregame speeches that he would give. It would be, hey, we're going to play for 60 minutes. Good things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. But let's avoid the peaks and valleys. Let's stay even keeled. And then at the end of the game, let's look up and see where the score is. And I think Danny was the perfect embodiment of that kind of advice from Coach Spurrier.
Well said. And he's one of a kind. You never saw him chewing out a lineman for getting sacked. That's just how he was.
No.
All right, so let's get now to, and I want to get to Coach Spurrier and the trophy here before we let you go. I'm sorry for keeping you so long, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
All right, so I talked to a receiver on the team, which you're going to nameless, kind of off the record, and asked him to give me an assessment of Jack Miller. Just in case, folks, you don't know, that's your quarterback for the Las Vegas Bowl. Jack Miller, get used to it. That's the name. And we'll see what happens with the Rashada and these other quarterbacks. And I think they'll probably come home with somebody from the portal, I would guess. I don't know who, and nobody knows. So if you're putting names out there, you're guessing just like anybody else. But I will say this. I thought, well, how could this guy possibly be effective when he hasn't never taken a snap as a quarterback on the game for the Florida Gators? And so I talked to this particular person who's caught a few passes from him in practice, and I said, what do you think of Jack Miller, his ability, and can he get the job done, and what are his strengths? He said, first of all, he's a baller. He said, don't mistake that. He's a baller. He says he's probably a lot tougher than you think he is. And secondly, in being a competitor, he's a guy that you want to play with. And he said that he's got pretty good accuracy, but given that his thumb was operated on, he's had a problem with his thumb. And if you ever had that, I once in high school hit my thumb on a helmet. And boy, you talk not being able to grip a ball, that's a whole different deal. But anyway, that's a million years ago. But the point is that, he was very high on Jack Miller. He said, give him a chance. So he's going to be a little rusty because he hadn't gotten snaps. And, he said, but if he gets in there and plays well, you might not get him out right away. Now, what have you heard about Miller? Have you seen him in practice? You get to watch practice sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you hear? What do you think?
I mean, I saw him early in the summer, or maybe it was spring. I don't remember when he got on campus. I saw him, before the thumb injury. Looked like a guy that knew where to go with the football, understood the offense, understood the reads, and could deliver the ball accurately. Now, he doesn't have the athleticism that Anthony Richardson does, but few people do in this whole world for that matter. So I imagine the offense will be a little more pass-centric, a little bit more pocket-oriented, but I do think he's a better athlete than probably a lot of people give him credit for. It's going back to the AR thing. Like I did speak to some defensive coordinators in this conference here recently, and talk to them about their thoughts about Richardson, and all of them are scared to death of the athleticism that he has, the ability to not only be involved in the quarterback run game, but the scrambling ability when plays break down, your constant awareness as a defense to have eyes on him. Jack Miller's not going to have that same sort of impact on opposing defensive coordinators, on the Oregon State defensive coordinator. So he's going to have to play within the offense. I think Florida's game plan should be what it's been all year. Well, most of the year until they kind of got away from that at some of the games. But run the football. Mm-hmm. Lean on the offensive line. Lean on the talented group of running backs. Run the football. Have some success. And then, take some play action pass shots on first down. Do some things that are going to surprise Oregon State's defense. I go back to last year, and I've been telling you and everybody else that would listen for months now that when Florida inevitably got to the bowl game, it was going to be a lot like what LSU was going to their bowl game last year, down like 32 scholarship players or whatever. You remember in that game, they went out and used a wide receiver at the quarterback position. So I know we don't have a lot of time before the 17th, but I'd love to see some sort of package with, you get your best offensive player and let him take the rep snaps. Let him be that wildcat quarterback that can even the number count that forces defenses to have to adjust a little bit. So this is a free game. I mean, you can look at this as a number of different ways. And I talked to my team about this today at the mortgage office. Like, a lot of folks look at the bowl games as the culmination of the 2022 season. To me, it's the starting point. It's a springboard for the 2023 season. It's an opportunity to have some success, get some young guys opportunities to not only get good practice reps, but some game reps, try some things offensively or defensively that you may not have utilized during the season. There's really nothing to lose at this point with 27 or more guys that have left the team. Like, just go out there and have some fun. And I think the thing that I do know what will happen, I don't know what the talent will be like. I don't know the names necessarily, but I know this team will play hard because that's what I've seen from them in 12 ball games this year. And that's the culture that I know that Coach Napier has established in the locker room there.
Great point. What's it like being a Gainesville guy? I asked this question of a couple people. The pressure's on you to come through, although you didn't necessarily have a lot when you came there because you were a walk-on at first, but ultimately you know what it's like to be a Gainesville guy. And I started thinking back all the centuries I've known Gainesville guys. I mean, names like Bernie Parrish you never heard of.
Yeah, I know Bernie Parrish.
And Bernie Parrish, I played a little baseball with Bernie, 2 sports. But hey, he was amazing. He played 3 sports, by the way. Could never get a football scholarship. Woodruff wouldn't give him a football. I used to just chew at him about that. But that was in the book I wrote, which you might have read. But anyway, the point is you've had you. I thought about Travis McGriff and other guys.
Willie Jackson, Terry
Jackson. Shoot whom I forget. There's a bunch more. Anyway, there's been a good dozen or so Gainesville guys, and you're a Gainesville guy now. Of course, we got one leaving and going to the pros. Hopefully, make himself rich and make everybody proud. So, all right, Coach Spurrier. As years go on, you must realize, I'm sure you do, how blessed you are to play for one of the greatest coaches in college football history, and you honored him, helped honor him by helping sponsor his award, which is given to, I think I've got this right, the best new coach. And last year, I think you had Tennessee and South Carolina, right?
Co-coaches. So the award goes to the most outstanding first-year coach at his respective university. So it doesn't have to be a first-time head coach. Brian Kelly was a guy that you heard his name being eligible in his first year at LSU. Lincoln Riley's another one of those guys. You look at Dan Lanning out at Oregon. A number of guys have Sonny Dykes at TCU. Like, there's a number of guys.
I forgot about Dykes. What a year he's had.
Yeah. And this award is close to Coach Spurrier's heart because you remember he took over that 1990 team and they won the SEC, even though the SEC doesn't acknowledge it. He inherited that team, and Coach talks about it all the time. Like, some coaches like to make excuses. Well, I got to have 3 or 4 years till I get my guys in here. Well, they are your guys. Once you start coaching them, they are your players, and getting them to buy into what you're trying to preach and creating a culture is something that's not easy to do. And Coach Spurrier did it twice. He did it at Florida, and he actually won this award before it was named. It was the first-year Coach of the Year award. He won it at South Carolina, so it's something he's passionate about. I'm very passionate about honoring him. Last year, Josh Heupel and Shane Beamer shared it as co-recipients. Could not have been any better in terms of not only what they did last year, but what they went on to do.
Wow, what you guys set them up for this year.
Yeah, we were spot on that. The committee did a great job in identifying those 2 coaches from last year. There's a great group of candidates that I already mentioned for this year. In addition to that, we're honoring one of the legends as well, and Bob Stoops will be in attendance. You remember that first year he had at Oklahoma, right?
Yeah,
took him to national championship game there, and also he'll be in attendance. We will be naming the actual winner of this award coming up soon. But it was a great night here in Gainesville. We had so much support from the community, so much support of Coach Spurrier's former players that were in attendance, and it's going to be bigger and better this year. Buddy, we got to have you come out. It's President's Day in February. So, but looking forward to doing that in a way to have these guys. We're talking about national, high-profile folks in college football that'll be here in our community in Gainesville, which is awesome.
Yeah, we can do the show from there. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and get you in the winter on. You never know, but that's awesome. It's one of those things that's going to grow legs is going to be around for a while, and you can't have too many awards for Coach Spurrier, as you know. Good job done by you, and goodbye. It's so important, and Coach Spurrier is the most famous person I know for celebrating. Jeremy Foley told me one time, there ain't anything that Steve doesn't want to celebrate. He's good about remembering the teams, the years, and that's great. And I think as you get older, the legacy means an awful lot. And who else should be the legacy but himself? Hey, Chris, it's great being on with you again, man. I really do appreciate it. And enjoy your work, get a chance to watch you and more. And what will you do in the offseason? You still do the show part of the time?
Yeah, this weekend will be my first weekend at home since August, so I'm looking forward to sleeping in my own bed on a Saturday. That's going to be nice. But we'll do some bowl coverage. We'll be out and about. I'll do a couple more studio shows as the bowl season cranks up. And I know Gator fans may not want to hear this, but I'm hopeful that we get an SEC team. That team being Georgia into the national championship game, and I think it's better for our conference, man.
Why wouldn't they? I think everybody who's an SEC football fan wants to see your SEC team in there.
Yeah,
who would have thought there'd be 2 Big Ten teams, for crying out loud, right?
Yeah, it's ironic because I think Georgia probably would have preferred to have seen USC win that game and face them in the 4 seed spot than Ohio State. Ohio State didn't put their best foot forward against Michigan in the last time out, but they have a group of receivers that's probably equal to or maybe better than what they faced in Tennessee early in the year. So I'm excited about seeing if that secondary for Georgia can shore up the pass defense. They gave up 500-plus yards against LSU last Saturday, so they've got some work to do before Ohio State rolls into Atlanta.
Last one. Who you like for the Heisman?
Man, it's who do I like?
Who do you think's going to win it?
I don't think he's going to win. I was going to say, who do I like? Stetson Bennett. I mean, you know me, the walk-on story, the guy that grew up loving his university, that cheered them on, that got to live out a dream. I think that's a tremendous story. I don't know that he has the statistics, but I'm so thrilled that he got included, in the Final 4 finalists for that award. I am disappointed that Hendon Hooker is not there. I think Hendon was deserving of being there as well. But I probably would imagine it's going to be Caleb. And I don't know how you feel about it, buddy. I've heard a lot of people say that Caleb was left off their ballot because of the fingernail painting thing, which I don't necessarily agree with.
It's a bad look, though, for voters. I got to tell you,
it may not be the right look for you or I or somebody else, but
I know. But I'm voting in the Heisman Trophy, so I get that it does impact. But I didn't not vote for him for that reason. But it could be a lot of people would not vote for him because of that, writing those words "F you" on his fingernails. But anyway, you're right about Stetson Bennett. He was on my ballot. I'm not allowed to say who I voted for. But there's I don't know. I'm kind of confused about this. I think I'm going to advise a farmer next year. Maybe you can help me, because I think we're getting too much immediacy. We're ready to throw out the season because even though a team had a great game like TCU, and he had played great, and they couldn't get in the end zone. It wasn't his fault. The coach didn't call his number, and I think he'd have scored. So I don't know. You can't be the person of the moment. There ought to be a formula where you consider the body of work for the regular season, at least a percentage, and then you put in, what the postseason was like, because it's not a postseason award, and more is becoming that,
Well, Duggan's a warrior. If you watched him all year
I love
long,
him.
Man, I've been impressed with him in the way that he wills his team back from deficit after deficit. I will say this, though. I think the Heisman race this year is a lot like that 4th playoff spot. Like, I really didn't think Ohio State, Alabama, or Tennessee was necessarily deserving of getting in. But, being that it is a 14 playoff, somebody had to get in there. I don't know that any of these 4 guys fit what I typically think of as being Heisman worthy, but it is an award that given annually. Somebody's got to win it. I don't like the fact that it's only become a quarterback award. I hope that we're going to get away from that. You look at even in this conference here. I mean, Rocket Sanders, Quinshon Judkins, those guys had statistical seasons in line with some of the past Heisman winners at the running back position. And so I don't think you're seeing the love for other positions as much as we used to see. And I think maybe the best, Jalen Carter could have been the best player. He was injured a lot, didn't necessarily have the.
Gosh, he's a good-looking player. He is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I think are maybe how do you quantify it? Most outstanding player, most valuable player, best statistics. Like, it's so vague in the way that they ask voters to judge it that I think you're going to get a lot of different opinions on how that should be voted on.
Maybe you and Peter Burns can come up with a new system of devising the formula.
I'm sure he has. He's probably already tweeted it out many months ago.
And by the way, he took credit for it too. I guarantee you that. So
no question.
Good stuff. Well, all right, my man. Pleasure to see you. I hope to get to that thing on President's Day. All the best to you, and we'll talk again soon. Yeah.
You going to Vegas, man?
I flipped a coin and decided no, because the stories are here, and it's a good trip. Don't get me wrong. I think it's good for Gator fans to go out there and have fun, and because it's been an exhausting season. But I got guys that I can rely upon to cover it, and I probably won't. Are you going?
I am. I have not been to a Gator game. I guess I called the 2020 Florida-Kentucky game. Yeah. So probably the last time I got a chance to see Florida in person. So I'm excited to watch them play. I'm excited that it's in Vegas. I know it's we're going to be a much different team than what we've seen all year long, but just a chance to be out there with fellow Gator fans.
You should go. You should definitely go. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet the president of the Vegas Bowl this offseason. Got to be friends with him, and ironically, when a couple weeks ago when it was looking like Florida may have a chance, I was like, please take our boys out there. So I'm glad it worked out that way, and looking forward to being in the desert with the rest of the Gator
That'd be a great trip for you. You'll be Mr. Vegas out there. Yeah. All the best to you. Have a good time, and I'm sure I'll see you for the holidays or talk to you. But
sounds good. Yeah, happy holidays to you.
Thank you, man. The great Chris Doering. Appreciate it, buddy. Bye-bye. All right. It's always good to hear from Chris. Good discussion tonight. I want to remind you folks of our sponsorships, and one in particular I'd like to close with because they mean so much to us and have been for years. They've been doing this a while, supporting this program, supporting my community, and they're always available there and offering to help if they can. They've done many good things. So just want to tell you, remember Rinstar. Rinstar is a local company that does a lot of good things. They have a really high quality, patient-centered, really patient-centered, clinical research facility right here in Ocala downtown. They bring some cutting-edge technology to this area, things on clinical trials for Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, along with many other things that affect our communities. So you can be a part of these trials. You can call Rinstar, or you can also go online to rinstar.net and see what they've been doing for the last, since 1998. They've had over 700 clinical trials, and you might qualify for one. And if you can be compensated for your time and travel and be a part of something and doing research, which will then go to prominent pharmaceutical companies and biomedical companies throughout the energy. So Rinstar Medical Research, longtime sponsor, friends over there, seeking tomorrow's answers for the health questions of today. Good night for Gator fans. DJ Lagway is going to be in the house soon. And it's a good day. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Good night. See you back tomorrow night right here with Ben Troop and friends and all the guys, and catch up on what's going on in the world of college football, and especially the Florida Gators. Good night.